Have you ever heard the story of how Sara traded the glitz of Los Angeles for a quiet life of writing poetry? Back in the 80s and 90s, this talented actress seemed completely unstoppable and poised for a legendary career in showbiz. From acting alongside Tom Cruise as royalty and legend, to defining the ultimate high school dream girl in Ferris Bueller's Day Off, she even kicked butt in the massive science fiction blockbuster Time Cop. Yet she basically vanished from the limelight, without a single tabloid controversy or messy public meltdown. The star deliberately walked away to pursue an entirely different path, leaving fans wondering where on earth she went. In this episode, we are diving deep into her initial rise to fame, examining those iconic characters that cemented her legacy, and figuring out the real reasons she left the entertainment industry behind. Born Sara Porcello in Brooklyn Heights, New York, on June 19, 1967, she grew up surrounded by the arts, with a photographer dad named Jerome and a fashion stylist mom named Diana. Artistic expression practically ran through her veins from day one, leading her to enroll at St. Anne's School, a prestigious Brooklyn institution celebrated for nurturing individual imagination and unconventional thinking. Growing up with such a creative family dynamic, paired with an open-minded education, really allowed her to develop a totally unique perspective on life and art. During her teenage years, she dove headfirst into dramatic training, eventually landing at the legendary Lee Strasberg Theatre Institute, where instructors quickly realized this young woman possessed incredible depth and a fierce dedication to the craft, proving she was far more than just a beautiful girl. The major studios soon took notice, casting her in her debut movie project, Ridley Scott's incredibly weird and dark fantasy piece called Legend, sharing the screen with a youthful Tom Cruise and Tim Curry, who delivered an absolutely terrifying performance. Prior to that big break, she actually scored a minor but significant television appearance back in 1983, grabbing a short guest spot on the classic daytime drama All My Children. While it hardly made her a household name, that soap opera gig provided crucial on-camera practice, smoothing her transition into the business right before she jumped into massive cinematic productions, which brings us back to Legend. Taking on the character of Princess Lily, she portrayed an independent and inquisitive young woman navigating a magical realm populated by mythical beasts, terrifying monsters, and an ultimate evil force named Darkness. This visually stunning movie relied heavily on gorgeous practical makeup and incredible set designs that remain impressive today, forcing the young actress to deliver powerful emotional scenes while talking to guys in rubber suits or pretending to see things on early blue screens. She managed to pull the whole thing off flawlessly, turning Lily into a completely believable protagonist despite the absolute absurdity of the magical environment surrounding her. Then disaster struck halfway through production when a catastrophic fire broke out during the cast's lunch hour, completely incinerating the massive enchanted woodland set constructed on Pinewood Studios' famous 007 stage. Thankfully, everybody escaped without injuries, though the gigantic blaze produced smoke clouds visible from miles away, marking it as one of the most devastating backlot infernos the British entertainment industry had ever witnessed. Shooting halted completely for 7 days as the crew frantically reconstructed crucial sets, ultimately moving certain sequences over to Shepperton Studios or shooting them outdoors in local public nature reserves. They even had to relocate to Florida to capture the famous ring-tossing moment, utilizing gorgeous natural springs that unfortunately happened to be swarming with actual alligators, creating a ridiculously chaotic and bizarre situation for the teenage rookie star. Going straight from performing on a soundstage filled with fake trees and dry ice, to flying halfway across the globe to act beside deadly reptiles is crazy. Yet she handled the insane pivot like a total pro during her wildly demanding debut. Dealing with gigantic backdrops, complicated wardrobe pieces, and a demanding storyline requiring her to bounce between pure goodness and dark corruption, the young talent totally anchored the picture's emotional journey instead of just fading into the background. When the movie finally dropped, it severely divided audiences and underwent several re-edits, leaving reviewers completely baffled until it eventually gained a massive cult following thanks to home video rentals and midnight television broadcasts. Throughout all the different versions and critical debates, her gripping portrayal consistently stands out as the beating heart of the entire fantasy epic. While that Ridley Scott project put her on the map for fantasy nerds, it was 1986's Ferris Bueller's Day Off that truly blasted her into superstar status, transforming John Hughes' smash hit comedy into a legendary piece of American cinema. Matthew Broderick obviously carried the leading comedic weight, and Alan Ruck brought the teenage angst, but it was absolutely her flawless take on Sloane Peterson that held their little runaway gang together. Dripping with effortless swagger and sophisticated calm, Sloane broke the mold of the typical helpless romantic interest, emerging as a sharply dressed, fiercely dedicated, and highly intelligent partner who never once resorted to the obnoxious, screaming cliches of 80s teen flicks. She perfectly balanced out the main character's wild antics with a chillingly cool demeanor, turning the girl into an absolute scene stealer entirely due to the actress's brilliant delivery. Rather than chewing the scenery, she brought a sense of reality to the trio's crazy adventure, acting as the mature anchor amidst all the teenage panic, while still completely enjoying the thrill of ditching class to joyride a stolen sports car through downtown Chicago. Countless moviegoers left cinemas back in 1986, desperately wishing they could date someone exactly like her, cementing her as an overnight sensation thanks to that legendary white leather fringe jacket, stunning looks, and undeniable charisma that made Hollywood think they had found their next massive leading lady. However, she broke from the standard young Hollywood playbook by refusing to just grab at every single blockbuster script thrown her way. Deliberately picking her projects with extreme caution, perhaps to a fault, she maintained a highly curated resume, even as massive studio offers flooded her inbox following her breakout high school comedy. Branching out into the small screen, she tackled various broadcast network specials, notably starring in the 1987 miniseries Queenie, taking on a dramatic role loosely based on classic Hollywood starlet Merle Oberon. Though this massive television event proved she possessed the serious acting chops to handle deeply complicated female characters, viewers just did not connect with it, leaving her permanently tethered to the inescapable legacy of Ferris's ultra-cool girlfriend. Instead of battling that typecasting head-on, she pivoted toward incredibly quirky indie projects, mind-bending suspense flicks, and weird genre scripts that demanded far more than just looking pretty on camera. Hey, if you are digging this deep dive into cinema history, hit that subscribe button, since I drop fresh documentaries every Tuesday and Saturday covering the fascinating talents that the entertainment industry forgot. Approaching the early 90s, she had successfully built a cozy little corner for herself, doing prestige television and indie cinema, right up until 1994, when she shocked everyone by signing onto a massive Jean-Claude Van Damme feature. Titled Time Cop, this project completely bypassed the usual cheap kickboxing garbage, serving as Universal Pictures' absolute powerhouse science fiction blockbuster for the summer movie season. Bringing a genuinely moving storyline to a crazy futuristic action premise, the movie crushed it in theaters, debuting at the absolute top of the box office charts and cementing itself as the martial artist's most lucrative domestic release ever. Taking on the part of Melissa, the doomed spouse of the dimension-hopping hero, she provided the tragic motivation for the entire plot, which honestly could have been an incredibly boring and cliché gig. Instead of playing a typical damsel in distress, the actress injected a massive dose of genuine heartbreak into the story, skipping the cheesy action tropes to deliver a remarkably touching and sorrowful performance. Sparking a shockingly authentic connection with her muscular co-star, she shattered the usual action movie girlfriend stereotype by bringing incredible emotional intelligence to a chaotic script packed with alternate realities and crazy government plots. A whole generation of 90s kids actually met her through this sci-fi romp, having entirely missed her days ruling the silver screen as a fairy tale royal or the ultimate teen crush. Now she stood proudly as a mature, powerhouse talent, bringing incredible depth and humanity to an explosive summer thrill ride. Following that massive box office win, she kept choosing bizarre thriller projects, like 1995's The Maddening, starring as a captive victim desperately trying to escape a terrifyingly unhinged Burt Reynolds, playing totally against type. This wonderfully trashy piece of cinema offered her an amazing sandbox to showcase sheer panic and survival instincts in a wildly unpredictable narrative, leading her to eventually tackle other gritty features like Undertow and Caroline at Midnight. These gritty, inexpensive, neo-noir experiments were way too obscure for traditional massive movie stars, but they handed her the perfect opportunity to dive into twisted psychology and finally destroy that persistent good girl reputation once and for all. As the late 90s rolled around, we saw much less of her on our screens. The industry was shifting its focus, leaving remarkably few opportunities for leading ladies who defied conventional typecasting. Moving into the early 2000s, her acting gigs dwindled down to a precious few. Her final notable film credit dropped in 2001 with Hoodlum and Son, a direct-to-video mobster comedy featuring her as a cheap gangster's former spouse. Interestingly enough, she took on the mantle of Harley Quinn for the live-action Birds of Prey television series in 2002, marking one of her final major appearances. Fast forward 10 years, and she popped up one last time for a 2011 fantasy flick called The Witches of Oz. This incredibly trippy project mashed up contemporary life with iconic fables in a totally bizarre way. Although that movie barely made a splash at the box office, it served as her official acting swan song. She walked away from the limelight without uttering a single goodbye, completely skipping the usual dramatic press tours or emotional television specials. She quietly closed that chapter of her life. However, audiences completely missed the fact that she had been intentionally distancing herself from Hollywood for quite some time. During the late 90s, she tied the knot with Jason Connery, who happens to be the legendary Sean Connery's child, and they welcomed their boy Dashiell Quinn Connery into the world in 1997. Raising her child took absolute precedence, and even after that relationship fell apart, her dedication to her family never wavered. Love found her again in 2010, when she walked down the aisle with Brian Henson, whose father is none other than the brilliant Muppets mastermind, Jim Henson. A Hollywood union like that would normally generate endless gossip, yet she had completely removed herself from the paparazzi's radar by then. The pair deliberately maintained an incredibly secretive existence, dodging flashy events and camera flashes at every turn. Even though she vanished from the silver screen, her creative energy found an entirely new outlet. By 2013, she boldly resurfaced in the public eye, trading her acting scripts for a career in poetry. Her literary pieces offer deep personal reflections and rhythmic beauty, perfectly balancing subtle sadness with a touch of wit. You could find her captivating verses printed in respected literary magazines such as Pank, Poet Law, and the Adirondack Review. Dedicated followers were definitely taken aback, though it somehow felt completely right for her. The most fascinating part is how she flat out refused to justify her career pivot to anyone. No tell-all autobiographies were published, and she actively avoided those cheesy celebrity catch-up interviews. Her silence became her loudest statement. Honestly, there is a profound elegance in choosing anonymity over fame like she did. Surprisingly, 2024 marked a stunning return for her in Mike Flanagan's cinematic take on the life of Chuck, a deeply philosophical Stephen King tale featuring massive names like Tom Hiddleston and Mark Hamill. Securing this gig was strictly the result of a direct request from the creator. The acclaimed director personally pitched her the character of Sara Krantz, who serves as the main character's grandmother in this touching narrative focusing on history and acceptance. She was actually a massive fan of his previous projects, frequently praising Midnight Mass as an absolute masterpiece of emotional horror. Jumping at this specific chance was an absolute no-brainer for her. This move had absolutely nothing to do with launching a massive comeback tour. Instead, she simply discovered a script that deeply resonated with her soul. She skipped the exhaustive promotional junkets entirely, preferring to make a dignified return for a project she truly believed in. Throughout the many years she spent hiding from the cameras, she actually rejected countless offers that lacked genuine substance. This particular script hit differently though. It beautifully demonstrated that if you bring her a captivating narrative, she is absolutely ready to step back into the spotlight to help bring it to life. We appreciate you tuning in today. Feel free to smash that like button and share your thoughts below if you want to help this community grow. Every little bit of engagement means the absolute world to us. Catch our fresh uploads every single Tuesday and Saturday. Until then, I cannot wait to catch up with you in our next deep dive.